Good morning. As we continue now in the Ein Yaakov, in the Gemara on Shabbos, it's on Chav Beis Amid Beis, page 22b. It says as follows: Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav Asi, Amar Rav. Rav Yehuda, in the name of Rav Asi, in the name of Rav, said, Osur lahartzos mos kineged ner Chanukah. That is prohibited lahartzos, money, in front of the Chanukah candles. What does lahartzos mean? So Rashi says lahartzos means to count. So if you've got money, in the Gemara's days, obviously, it was talking about coins, and you want to see how much money you have, and you're counting your coins, that's something that cannot be done to the light of the Chanukah candles. The Meiri says that it's referring to using the light to examine coins to make sure that they are valid for use. Ki Amrisa Kamei de Shmuel, Rav Yehuda said that when he quoted this halacha in the name of Shmuel, Shmuel was surprised that there should be such a prohibition. Amar li, Shmuel said to me, V'chiner kedusha yeshba? Does the Chanukah candle have any holiness in it? And therefore Shmuel was rejecting this idea. So there's an interesting machlokas, a disagreement between the Ramban and the Baal HaMaor as to how to understand this halacha and what Shmuel's question was. Because earlier, it wasn't in the Ein Yaakov, so we didn't discuss this beforehand, but it was in the Gemara. Earlier, there was a quote from Rebbe in which Rebbe has said that it's forbidden to utilize the Chanukah candles. So if we already learned earlier that it's prohibited to use the Chanukah candles, what is Rav Yehuda in the name of Rav Asi in the name of Rav adding on to what we know already? So according to the Ramban, you might have thought it was only some sort of, I'm going to use the words, serious endeavor. Perhaps according to the Ramban, it would mean that you couldn't actually be closely examining the coins like the Meiri said to see if they were valid or not. But something as simple as the way Rashi explained the Gemara, that you're just counting money, I might have thought that you don't really need the light in order to count the money. And perhaps this would not have been included in Rebbe's prohibition of being prohibited from using the Chanukah candles for any use. And therefore, when Shmuel then asks, does a candle have any holiness in it? Shmuel is saying, like, what? Even for such a simple thing like counting coins, you're telling me you can't do that to Chanukah, to the light of the Chanukah candles? So that's one approach to understanding the Gemara. The Baal HaMaor understands that this statement over here about prohibiting counting coins by the light of the Chanukah candles is arguing on what Rebbe had said earlier. That when Rebbe had said earlier you can't use Chanukah candles, Rebbe meant that you cannot use the light of Chanukah candles for any purpose whatsoever, even if the purpose is a mitzvah. So let's say, for example, the only light in your home was your Chanukah candles, and you wanted to study Torah, and it's at night, that you would not be allowed to use the light of the Chanukah candles for any learning. And Rav Yehuda, in the name of Rav, over here is arguing. And he's saying, no, if you're using the light of the Chanukah candles for something significant like a mitzvah, that would be permitted. And he holds that it's only prohibited to use the Chanukah light for a very mundane purpose, namely for the purpose of counting money. In which case, according to him, Shmuel, when he's arguing, is saying, what, does a candle have Kedusha? The candle of holiness? is because Shmuel takes it even one more step. And he holds that you can use the candlelight for anything on Chanukah. And that the whole prohibition of using Chanukah candles would only extend to actually using the candle itself, to like take the Chanukah candle and light another candle, or use the heat of the Chanukah candle for something. But according to Shmuel, actually using the light of the Chanukah candle would be completely permitted. And then the Gemara questions Shmuel's statement. When Shmuel said, is there any holiness to the Chanukah candles? Maskifla Rav Yosef. So Rav Yosef retorted to him, and he said, V'chidam kedusha yeshbo. Does blood have any holiness? And let's understand the context that we're talking about blood over here. There is a mitzvah in the Torah called kisui hadam. Literally means the covering of the blood. And that means that if you ever shecht, if you ever slaughter either a bird or a non-domesticated animal, let's say, for example, a deer. So the halacha is that after you do the process of shechita, you have to cover the blood with dirt. So he's saying, does that blood, okay, you've shechted the animal, the blood is lying there on the ground, on top of dirt, actually is what we'll learn the halacha is, you should do the shechita on top of dirt and then cover with more dirt. But that blood doesn't have any holiness. And Desanya, we learned in a brisa, v'shofach v'kisa, that the person should spill the blood and then cover the blood. And from the juxtapositions of the words spilling blood and covering blood, the brisa understands b'ma sheshofach yechase, that the same body part with which you spilled the blood, you should cover the blood. In other words, after you've shechted with your hand, you then pick up the dirt with your hand and cover the blood with the dirt that's in your hand. Shelo yichasenu beregel, that you should not use your foot to cover the dirt. Meaning, don't go over to the pile of dirt that's sitting next to where the blood is and kick the dirt onto the blood. Shelo yuhu mitzvos bezuyos alav. In order that when you perform a mitzvah, you should not do it in a manner which is demeaning. And therefore, Rav Yosef says, Hachanami over here also in our case, Shelo Yehu mitzvos bezuyos alav. They should not be doing the mitzvah of Chanukah candle in a demeaning way by using the candle for mundane purposes. Over here also, there's an interesting machlokes, because even though the Gemara is, deriving the concept of not kicking the dirt on top of the blood from a pasuk, it isn't clear if this is a real drasha, meaning the Chazal were really learning this out of the pasuk, and therefore would be an Isser deoraisa, it would be a Torah prohibition to do a mitzvah in a demeaning manner, or if this is not a real drasha, it's just something that Chazal are alluding to from this pasuk, and therefore the prohibition of kicking dirt on top of the blood would only be a rabbinic prohibition, not a Torah prohibition. Have a very nice day, everybody.